Hi, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Megan.
Welcome to the Grimdark Diaries.
We're your geek gal pals obsessed with true crime and all things dark and disturbing. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Grimdark Diaries. We are happy to have you here with us. Nikki, I have some very fun, interesting, spooky things to tell you about my office.
I love spooky things. Lay it on me.
Okay, so we have a ghost, apparently, in our office, and everyone...
You say apparently like you don't believe it.
Well, I wasn't a believer at first. Now, that's not to say I don't believe in ghosts, because I obviously very much do. I lived in a haunted house, so... But I wasn't sure, because it's a very popular street that I work on, and I don't want to obviously give that away, but the building that I'm in, I feel like I would have heard about it or something like that. Anyway, so what happened was I've changed desks about 3 times since I started working there about a year and a half ago. And the second place that I sat was near the front of the office, and there was like a barrier wall in the office between me and the other side of the office. So I used to hear this typing all the time. It was super weird. I was like, oh, it's driving me crazy. And then I thought it was the people who were working over there. But then there was one day when there was nobody over there. And I was like, why do I still hear typing? So I went over there and there was nobody there. And I stopped and I listened a little bit longer. And I was like, okay, now it sounds like it's actually coming from over by where I sit. And I was like, this is actually freaking me out a little bit. So I was looking at the blinds, because we have the blinds with like the pulled chain, to see if it was like moving in the breeze. I don't know. We didn't really have any breeze in the office, but I was trying to see if it was that. It was not making the same noise. It didn't sound the same at all. So I was walking around looking for anything else. And I'm like, I cannot explain this noise. I have no idea where this noise is coming from. So I just kind of shrugged it off, and we kind of joke about it now. And you know, we have little nicknames for her and stuff. But so what happened was, a guy I work with, he recorded himself. He came into work early one day and he recorded himself. He had it on selfie mode and he had the recorder up, and he's like, can you hear that noise? And so I can hear him talking, and he's quiet for a second, and all you can hear in the background is like tick, 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 just a typing sound. That was on a Friday afternoon. This was just a couple of weeks ago. That was a Friday afternoon, and he showed me that. And on Monday morning, he comes over to my desk, and the look on his face, I was like, are you okay? He's like, do you remember that video I showed you on Friday where you could hear the typing? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, listen. So he played the video again. There was no typing sound anymore. And I thought it might be like he had his volume down or something like that, but then I could hear him talking. And I was like, okay, there's no typing anymore, but I hear you talking, so I know you don't have your volume off. And he is not very computer tech savvy at all, so I don't believe that he would have like altered the audio in any way. He probably wouldn't even know who to ask to do that. He would ask me, honestly, if he was going to do something like that. And I was just so blown away by that, because it was just so bizarre. I'm like, this is the right video. This is the same video. I even made him show me like all his videos in his gallery on his phone, because
that's dangerous.
Well,
you could have fell into the spank bank with that one.
Yeah, no, he made sure that there was nothing there for me to see that was bad first before I went in there. Anyway, there was no other video in there. It was the same video anyway, because he was saying the same thing, and it was unbelievable. And then the next day he comes to work and the video is gone. The video was just gone. It wasn't even in his gallery anymore. And he's like, I don't know where it went. He's like, I went home that night to try to show... The first night on Friday, he went home to show his partner, and when he played it, the typing was gone. So the typing was gone. He was like, okay, my partner's obviously, he doesn't believe me anymore, because this is not playing for him. And then when he came into work on Monday and he showed us that, it was that night that he went home and came into work the next day, and the video was just completely gone from his gallery. I was like, I am just so blown away with this. I don't know if the ghost just didn't want her noises to be heard outside of the office or what? I have no idea, but it was so freaky.
Well, welcome to spooky season, everybody.
Yeah, this is our
kickoff.
That's right.
Yeah, this is our kickoff for spooky season. This
right.
episode comes out in October, so we are going full spooky all month.
That's right. And it is a great segue into my next story. So today we're going to be chatting about Latoya Ammons. Latoya, her 3 children who were ages 7, 9, and 12, and her mother all moved into a home that she was renting located on Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana. This was in November of 2011, so just about 10 years ago now. Within the first month of living there, they would have an abnormally large amount of black flies swarming the porch area. The porch area was screened in, might I add. Remember, this is December, and apparently in Indiana, because I have never been there before myself, there was a brisk chill in the air, so to have swarming flies at that time of the year was extremely rare and abnormal. The family all thought this was extremely strange, but they just killed the flies and carried on with their days. Sadly, these flies would only continue to come back. A not so great omen, if you believe in that sort of thing. But the flies swarming their front porch wasn't the only weird thing that this family encountered. Many times, only after midnight, Latoya would hear walking up the stairs from the basement and even the creaking of the basement door, which was located in her kitchen.
I have creaky stairs in my new house.
Do you?
And that is a worry of mine. Yes, they are. I don't know why they're so creaky. And there's no way. I've tried walking up the stairs different ways.
Yes.
Like going, because the stairs are kind of wide and I have a lot of stairs. It's like 4 sets of stairs to get between my top floor and my bottom floor. And I've been like, maybe if I stick to the right of the stairs or the left of the stairs or the center. And they are the creakiest stairs. And I don't know if there's a way to fix that. But I worry that I'll be like upstairs in bed and I'll hear, because the basement ones are the creakiest.
Okay.
So I'm worried I'll hear them creaking.
And we know how you feel about basements.
Yeah. There's no sneaking around to get snacks in my house.
Just be Legolas.
Yeah. I mean, to be an elf is my dream. I'm trying. I like to wear my elf ears, except now we have to wear masks everywhere, and it makes it very hard for me to wear my elf ears now.
That's so true. Just guess you must have to Gorilla Glue them on or something.
Oh, yeah. That would go. You know what? One time I was doing a cosplay from Fern Gully.
Oh.
The main
love
character.
That movie. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So I got these little elf ears to put on. They were like short ones, not super long ones, the tiny ones, just to kind of give a little point to my ear. And that was before I really knew what I was doing in cosplay. And I used spirit gum to put them on my ears. And I did not move my hair out of the way. And I totally glued my hair to my ears.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was bad. I couldn't get it off. It just would not come off right, even with the spirit glue remover. So I had to cut some of my hair off.
Oh, no.
Yeah, good times.
Oh, no.
So there'll be no gluing of ears to my ears. No double ears with glue.
No, there we go. Not even for cosplay or Halloween or anything.
No.
She was brave enough to get out of bed, creep around the house to ensure that no one was there. And sure enough, there was no one. So Latoya would quickly close the basement door and lock it. Yet, after that night, knowing the basement door was shut and locked, she would still hear the footsteps coming up from the basement and the creak of the basement door. Every time when she would check it, the door was closed and still locked. Latoya's mother, Rosa Campbell, said that there was one night where she woke up in the middle of the night by the sound of something. She slept with her door open and had a clear view of the living room. That's a big nope from me. Absolutely. I cannot sleep with my door open. I have it slightly ajar so that Leia can get in and out, which I still don't even like, but my door always has to be shut. If I can see the hallway, no. I used to have horrible, traumatizing nightmares. Okay, you're going to laugh at this. So when I was a kid, I had horrible nightmares that a speaker, like a giant speaker that took up the entirety floor to ceiling of my house.
Like a band speaker
yeah.
that music comes out of?
Yes. It was like, I don't know, that was my version of a monster. I don't know why, but anyway. I used to have a dream that I would see it walking around the corner. And my bedroom door used to always be open when I was a kid. We always had to have the hall light on because otherwise I feared that this speaker man would come around the corner and attack me.
Okay, that's pretty weird.
I know. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. I don't even know why I knew what a speaker looked like, to be honest with you. I don't think we had any.
No. Okay, so I have an opinion on this whole open door sleeping situation.
Yep.
So I have never had any kind of fear of open doors at night. It is just not something that's ever crossed my brain. Like, I haven't thought of it one way or another. So doors being open has never bothered me. Mm-hmm. And then moving into this house, we've always, like, my husband and I have always slept with our bedroom door closed because we've just always been in apartments and stuff, or shared apartments.
Right.
So it made sense to close our door. But then in this new house, our heat pump, our bedroom is on the top level and we have a heat pump, but it's out in the hallway. And if we don't sleep with our door open, our room gets really warm.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
Especially because the sun rises on the side that our bedroom is. So we have to leave our bedroom door open so it can stay temperate. And so now my husband is especially intense because he hates open doors at night.
Really?
And, yes. And our upstairs level where our bedroom is, there's our room, a bathroom, and then 2 other bedrooms. And he has to close all of the doors before we go to sleep. And he has been saying, he's like, it's so creepy. You can't leave doors open in the dark like that. It's so creepy. Anything could be in that doorway.
Yep. I'm with him on that one.
See, I wasn't. There's very few things that I'm not afraid of, and that was one of them. But now I am.
That sucks a lot.
It does. And at first when he was like getting after me, because I'm always the one that leaves the door open because I'm like a tornado. So I open every door in the house because I'm in every room and I'm just a mess. And so I always open the doors every single day. And then he gets after me and he's like, why did you leave these doors open? That's so creepy. So then it started getting in my head that it's creepy. And now it creeps me out. And now I'm scared of open doors in the dark.
You should be. It's very scary. I understand.
No, it should, but it's not. And I don't even know why I'm scared of it, but now I am.
I don't know. Has he ever explained it any more than the fact that it's just creepy?
He just said it's creepy when it's dark because it just seems like something could come from that darkness. Like if a door is shut, it's shut. But if it's just dark and there's a doorway, he's like, you don't know what's in that doorway or what could come out of that room.
Fair.
And I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure if something's coming out of that room, it's going to open the door. I don't think a doorknob is going to stop it.
Yeah, that's so true. I don't know. It seems logical, but when you have a scared brain, it just, it's not as logical as that, Nikki. Come on.
Yeah, the last thing I needed was something else to be scared of.
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
That's great. That's awesome.
Oh, that's fair. I would try to talk you out of it, but honestly, I am too, so it's okay. We'll just be all scared together. So when Rosa looked towards where the noise was coming from, she noticed that there was a tall, shadowy figure that looked like a man pacing back and forth in the living room. See, this is why. This is one of the reasons why I would be scared. I want to see something I don't want to see. Rosa immediately sat upright and bravely went out into the living room to check it out. When she got into the living room, the shadowy figure was gone, but what remained was still chilling. There were large, wet boot prints on the floor where he had been seen pacing.
I didn't know what you were going to say when you said large, wet boot. I was like, oh.
Wet boot print. Yeah, I should have said footprints, but boot prints was more, because a footprint could be like bare feet, but a boot print, you actually know it's a boot. So we're going to fast forward a few months into March 2012. Things would get way more frightening. One evening, the family was at home with some of their closest friends and family as they were grieving the loss of a loved one. This person was not named in any of their stories, so I'm not sure who it was, but nonetheless, they were all grieving in the home. They were all in the living room telling stories and reminiscing when all of a sudden, Latoya, who had gone in to check on her kids around 2 a.m., started yelling for her mother, Rosa, from Rosa's room. In Rosa's room was Latoya's oldest daughter, who was 12 years old, who is also unnamed. Latoya would only tell her story if the children's names were left out, so you won't actually hear any of the children's names in this story. So Latoya's oldest daughter, who is 12, and a friend who was spending the night were in Rosa's room. Latoya and her mother, Rosa, both say that the daughter was actually levitating off of the bed that she was sleeping in and was still sleeping through it. Everyone came into the room, obviously due to all the commotion, and surrounded the child on the bed and immediately started praying. I mean, I don't know, I probably would have pulled her off the bed or pushed her down on the bed, but that's just me. As you can imagine, everyone was extremely terrified. This is not something that just happens every day. After a little while of praying, Latoya's daughter slowly lowered back down onto the bed. When she finally woke up, she didn't know that any of that had just happened and was wondering why everyone was standing around her. All of Latoya's friends that had been over at the house that evening never came back. I can't say that I blame them.
Nope, that's a hard no.
Hard no.
Especially, I'm assuming they are religious if they were all praying.
Yes. Very, very closely religious family and friends, I'm assuming. So when something like this happens, who do you call?
Ghostbusters!
I knew you were going to say that.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, that would have been better.
The Winchester brothers. The Doctor.
Any of those would have been better than this. So, no, not the Ghostbusters. Well, I mean, maybe the Ghostbusters. But someone who would know how to deal with something supernatural going on in their house. Their first stop was to the church, because that seems like the most natural course of action.
No, it's not. I'm going to tell you right now.
Well, they weren't very helpful, so they definitely were not the most helpful. It was considering their Christian faith, like they were Christians, so I can understand why they would go to the church, but when it comes to something
Why? What's the church going to do about it?
Well, that's just it. Like, we get into it a little bit later, but I think when it comes to like the Catholic religion, they have their bishops in their diocese and those that do deal with supernatural apparently, and they do blessings on the home and things like that. So we'll get into all of that, but that is not what happened right now. Most of the churches refused to listen to Latoya's story. Finally, she was able to find one church that would listen to her. The officials there decided to take a visit to the home and immediately sensed the presence of spirits residing. Their recommendation to Latoya: just get some bleach and ammonia from the store and give it an good old wipe down. And after that, they should get some oil. I guess it could be olive oil, vegetable oil, something like that. And use that to draw crosses on all of the doors and windows in the home.
No, you buy sage. When in doubt, sage it out.
Oh, that's an interesting phrase. I didn't know that was a saying.
Yes, that is how you cleanse with sage.
I did know that, but I didn't know it was a saying.
Yeah, when in doubt, sage it out.
There we go.
I mean, worst case scenario, it's just as scary as before.
Fair enough. Yeah, just smokier.
Yeah. Hey, sage doesn't it's like a nice, it's like burning incense.
I've never burned sage, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's like burning incense, like a big hunkin' wrap of incense.
Yeah, I like incense. I have burnt that before. So after doing the crosses on the doors and windows, they then recommended that they should pour the same oil over their hands and feet, including the 3 children's, and make cross shapes on everyone's foreheads.
So they just want them to walk around with oily feet.
Apparently, yes.
That sounds disgusting. Do you know how much crud would stick to your feet?
Do you also know how slippery that can be? Just slip and slide all over your house.
You can see where my concern is.
I
hate dirt. Like any kind of hair and dust and crumbs would just stick to your feet.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty gross. But also slippery. Rosa and Latoya also went as far as to seek out a couple of clairvoyants. For those who aren't sure what they are, it's someone who has the ability to see things that are outside of our realm of contact. So beyond the veil, as they would say. They may have the ability to see the future. These clairvoyants went in through Latoya's home and told both her and Rosa that there were over 200 demons that had made this home their own.
How do they know? Did they count them? How? How do they know it's 200?
I feel like it would have... They said over 200, so I'm assuming they...
So they took like a roll call? They were like, okay, everyone get in line.
Yeah.
I'm going to need you to write down your email address,
Exactly.
your first and last name.
That's right, yeah. Well, don't demons only have one name? I don't know.
How many demons do you know?
Well, I've heard of demons before, and I've heard of their names and being powerful against them and things, but...
I'm pretty sure a demon can have as many names as they want.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know anything about it. So they told Latoya and Rosa that it would be best if they moved out of the home. Sadly, due to their financial situation and the reason they were all living together in the first place, Latoya and Rosa were not in a place to be able to move at this time.
So did they own this house or were they renting this house?
No, they were renting it.
Did they tell their landlord that it was haunted?
Their landlord didn't believe them. I think he probably just thought it was something that was a ploy to maybe not pay the rent or something to that degree. But yeah, he did nothing for them.
They better hope he didn't come in and see the oil all over everything.
Yeah.
Gonna lose your damage deposit.
That's really hard to clean out of any kind of like...
If they have carpet, that would be so stained.
And if they had any kind of hardwood flooring, like that would ruin it. So since that was not something that they would be able to do right now, Latoya and Rosa asked the clairvoyants what they could do to help their situation. So they were told to go down into their basement and make an altar. They grabbed a white sheet and placed it over an end table down there. They took a white candle they had lying around, as well as their statue of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, and set those all on this makeshift altar. Latoya then took out her copy of the Bible and read Psalms 91, which has 16 verses. Latoya and a friend who was unnamed in this story went as far as to wear white shirts and white scarves around their heads. I couldn't really figure out what that meant, like why they would wrap white scarves around their heads. I'm guessing some sort of purity. The only thing I could find about white scarves on your head is in the old days, it was used to mean the end of wars and conflicts for some nations. So I don't know if that has anything to mean that it would be the end of some sort of possession of the house or something. I'm not really sure, but
maybe what they were trying to do was make some classic ghost costumes to try and scare away the spirits. Like in Beetlejuice?
Yes.
When they put the sheets on?
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe that's what they were doing.
Yeah,
fight fire with fire.
That's right. Yeah, I bet they would have scared them demons right back to hell.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we know that we would be scared of those. The next step in this process was to get some sage and sulfur to burn all through the home.
Called it.
Yeah. But it was important to note that they had to start upstairs and work their way down into the basement. As she burned the sage, Latoya would mark crosses everywhere she went with the smoke. While Latoya was doing this, her friend read Psalm 91 out loud. For 3 solid days, there was no more activity in the home. But as soon as those 3 days were up, things changed, and not for the better. According to IndieStar, who had interviewed Latoya and Rosa about their experiences, it was at this time that the 3 children would become possessed at times. They experienced things that seemed totally unreal, like having super evil smiles. And I'm picturing like eerily unnatural, ear-to-ear, literally ear-to-ear smiles, which really creeps me out to think about.
That's very Cheshire Cat.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Bulging eyes and deepened voices. That only happened when the former things were happening.
Do you think the kids were just friggin' with them?
I don't know. As we get through the story, I'm very unsure about this whole story. It's pretty wild. But we'll get into that, and then you let me know at the end what you think. Latoya recalled feeling slightly different. It's unsure if this was possession or just the energy of the home, but she would get super lightheaded, weaker, and her body would shake. She did say that it felt supernatural. Rosa would say that she didn't feel any of the effects at all, but it was because she has a guardian protecting her and others like her. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but Rosa said it is something that always has and will protect her from any evil in this world.
But she's like, not my daughter and my grandkids, though.
No, they do not. They don't qualify as others like her, apparently. It's only her. So I don't know what that means, but
Man, she's got a VIP card.
Yeah. There's some guardians watching over her, I guess, and not the rest of her family. There were other things that would happen during their days in this home as well. The youngest boy, who was 7 years old, would go into the closet and sit down and then start chatting it up with another unseen, quote-unquote, little boy. Apparently, Latoya's son said that this other little boy would talk about being killed and how it felt. Another incident occurred when the oldest, the 12-year-old, spoke with her therapist or counselor and told them that she had experiences where it felt like she was being held down and choked. She swears that she heard a voice tell her that she wouldn't be alive soon and never see her family ever again. She also would have a headboard fall down on her head so hard that she required stitches. How awful these experiences would be to live through. I understand why they felt the need to want to get a hotel room sometimes, but moving was still out of the question. This was all happening within the month of March. Not much time had actually passed, and they experienced so many awful things. On April 19th, 2012, they decided to go have a chat with Dr. Jeffrey Untitled, their family physician, and told him everything. The doctor would go into the room they were in at his office. He did say that he was scared when he walked into the room. He didn't say why. I think the feeling of the room, he was a little scared. He couldn't speak out more on the subject due to the clearances that were needed from Latoya's psychiatric evaluation. However, it was noted that some of his medical notes referenced, quote, delusions of ghost in home, hallucinations, and history of ghost in home, end quote. This next encounter was lifted from the DCS, so Department of Community Services report, of what the family had communicated to them about what happened when Dr. Untitled came into the room at the doctor's office. It was said that Latoya's 2 sons came up to him directly and in the deeper sounding demonic voices started saying things that sounded like they might be a curse. The report then goes on to say that Latoya's sons were, quote, lifted and thrown into the wall with nobody touching him.
What?
End quote. Yes. After hitting the wall, the 2 boys promptly went unconscious. It was then that the 911 was called by someone from the doctor's office. Apparently, there were roughly 8 police officers that would arrive and more than 1 ambulance.
Why did they call an ambulance to a doctor's office?
I know. I think it was,
sense.
It was just a family physician, so I don't think it was like an actual hospital. It was like if you go into a family physician office, it's just a room, like bed and stuff like that. It's not like a place where
there's still a doctor. All they're going to do is take them to the hospital to see a doctor.
I think they might have different things that go on in a hospital. They have different departments that could be brought in for different reasons. And
the thrown to the wall department?
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean like the psychiatric department plus also the DCS get involved. So it's, I think they just have a lot of more resources there for that kind of stuff. The 2 boys were taken to Methodist Hospital's campus. Later, when they were both awake, the 9-year-old was a bit confused, but he seemed totally fine. The youngest, however, wouldn't stop screaming and throwing his body around. It took 5 grown men to come into his room and hold him down. Because of all of the information getting out there a bit more, it would only be natural for the hospital to contact DCS on the family. The children were complaining about being choked at home. They were getting stitches. It did seem like the most natural course of action, and I understand why it had to be done. So DCS was contacted and asked to investigate this family further. It was speculated that Latoya was not well mentally and that she may have been somehow coercing the children to act out on her behalf. The case manager who was assigned to Latoya's case was Valerie Washington. In her report, which was given to the police, as well as her intake officer, she detailed many of the things she heard and saw. Of these things, there was a physical examination done on Latoya and her children. All were healthy and had no marks on them that they were able to see. Latoya had the pleasure of getting a psych evaluation done, but lo and behold, she was considered to be completely sound of mind. So the next step was an interview process done by Valerie. She first wanted to speak with Latoya, so while they were chatting, it was noticed that the youngest boy decided to bare his teeth, growl, and then roll his eyes to the back of his head. He went over to his older brother, the 9-year-old, and wrapped his fingers around his neck and started choking him. The adults in the room had to rush over to pry his fingers from around his neck because the 7-year-old refused to let go. Next up was the interview with the 2 boys. Valerie and one of the nurses, Willie Lee Walker, went into an interview room where the 2 boys were. Rosa decided to join them as well. Almost immediately, the 7-year-old started growling again and locked eyes with his older brother. In the weird, creepy, deep, demon-y sounding voice, the 7-year-old said, quote, "It's time to die. I will kill you." End quote. While he was doing that, the 9-year-old seemed to be overtaken by something as well and started banging his head into Rosa's stomach aggressively. Rosa took the hands of the 9-year-old grandson and decided to start praying with him then and there. As soon as this happened, it was then written in the DCS report by Valerie and corroborated by Nurse Walker. Then the 9-year-old boy developed a weird evil grin on his face, and while still holding onto Rosa's hand, he walked backwards up a wall to the ceiling and then flipped over his grandmother to land on his feet. What in the actual... Seriously. Either this is an elaborate plot that everyone is involved in, or this really did happen, and my blood is running cold right now. They posted the DCS report online. It's redacted to all get out, but that part is in it. And it's freaky.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. So Nurse Willie Walker said, quote, "He walked up the wall, flipped over her, and stood there. There's no way he could have done that." End quote. When the police got involved later on, they naturally were suspicious. So they asked if maybe the 9-year-old had taken a run at the wall and did a flip, like a fun acrobatic trick or something. Valerie was very clear in her response to them, though. She said, quote, "No, he glided backwards on the floor, wall, and ceiling." End quote. This quote is literally in the police report. She stated that as soon as it had happened, she was out of there. She ran from the room, and apparently he ran after her. Nurse Walker said, quote, "We didn't know what was going on. That was crazy. I was like, everybody gotta go." End quote. You can tell how these people talk just from their quotes. So Valerie went to find a doctor to discuss what had just happened. Obviously, the doctor didn't believe what she was saying, so he, what I assumed to be mockingly, asked the 7-year-old boy to do it again. Nurse Walker, who was also there, said it would be unlikely that he would do it again because he seemed to be, quote-unquote, back to normal, and he was not himself when he actually did it. The young boy was very confused about what everyone was talking about, as he couldn't remember a thing and vowed that he wouldn't be able to climb up the wall backwards again. Nurse Walker was sure that the behavior exhibited on that day did have some demonic spirit to it, but also felt that it was due to a mental illness. Valerie's statement in the police reports says that she does, in fact, believe there could be a quote-unquote evil influence that is dominating the family's life. That night, Latoya and her 7-year-old son stayed at the hospital for observations where Rosa took the other 2 children back home. The next day was the youngest's 8th birthday, so the rest of the family came back to the hospital so they could sing songs, eat cake, talk more about what happened, and then at the end of that blissful but weird birthday, Valerie drops the bomb on them and tells them that she is taking immediate custody of all 3 children.
Oh, that's a rough birthday.
Yeah, but I guess you gotta do what you gotta do when you gotta do it. She said in her report, quote, All of the children were experiencing spiritual and emotional distress. End quote. Clearly, everyone was heartbroken, and Latoya couldn't help but feel as though she thought that they were finally beating whatever they were fighting, and now they were being ripped apart from each other. Latoya must have gone to the hospital chaplain because not long after this happened, the chaplain had Reverend Michael Magano on the line and told him the situation about what was going on with the child and asked him to come in to do an exorcism on Latoya's son. The Reverend said he would come by after Sunday Mass in a few days and agreed to do what was necessary. The Reverend was clear that he wanted to make sure that these strange anomalies weren't caused by any natural causes in the home. So he went over there first on April 22nd, 2012. He spent 2 hours talking to Latoya and Rosa, who were explaining to him all of the things that were happening in the home. In the middle of their explanations, the Reverend stopped them because he had noticed that the bathroom light was flickering. He went over to the light and it stopped flickering. He walked away from it again and it started. He did this multiple times and it acted in the same way every single time. He said that whatever it was must be afraid of him, so they determined it was likely a demonic spirit. The Reverend saw that there were wet boot prints on the living room floor. Boot prints on the living room floor that hadn't been there before, and also saw that one of the kitchen blinds was swinging, but there was no air flowing through to make that happen. Finally, after 4 hours, the Reverend completed his investigation on the home and determined that it was certainly demons that were affecting the family. Before he left that day, he blessed the home by praying and sprinkling holy water in each of the rooms. He said that it was imperative that Latoya and Rosa leave because it wouldn't be safe for them to stay there any longer, so they decided to go stay with a family member for a little while. Not even a week later, though, they did have to go back to the home, and that was to let Valerie in to assess the condition of the home. Valerie had also asked a police officer from the Lake County Sheriff's Office to accompany her. 2 more officers joined in on this search as well, out of quote-unquote professional curiosity. That's fair, I'd do the same thing. Latoya didn't want to go inside, so she stayed outside of the house while Rosa, Valerie, and the 3 officers all went inside to check on the condition of the home. During the walkthrough, they ended up in the basement where it was described to be a dirt floor under the stairs and concrete that was pretty jagged all the way around it, as though it had been broken. Apparently, during this time, one of the officers would report that his audio recorder's power light started flickering. This meant that the battery was dying, which was odd because he had literally put new batteries in it earlier that day. According to police records, one of the other officers' audio did record, and when they played it back later, they heard a voice that wasn't anyone else's in the room that simply said, "Hey." This same officer had also taken photos of the home, and one of the photos of the basement showed a clear white cloudy image in the top right corner by the stairs, and when enlarged, you could clearly see an image that looked like a face. Once it was enlarged, they also noticed a green image in a different area of the photo that resembled a figure of a female. Austin, the Gary police captain, had taken more photos of the house and basement with his iPhone. He also saw some weird figures in his photos that resembled silhouettes of people. On his way home, he accounts for multiple other things that started to malfunction or go wrong. First, his radio in the police vehicle he drove malfunctioned. Then, when he got home that night, the garage door opener didn't work for no apparent reason. After that, he noticed that in his own personal vehicle, the driver's seat would suddenly move forward and backwards on its own. He decided to take the vehicle into the shop because it wasn't stopping. The mechanic told him that the motor that moved the driver's seat was broken and that easily could have led to distraction and caused an accident. Austin was really starting to believe these claims about the paranormal activity in this family's home. DCS was a different story, though. They filed for temporary wardship of all 3 kids, and that request was granted in April 2012. In their investigation, it did appear that Latoya did neglect her children's education as they were regularly absent from school. Latoya would say the reasoning for this would be because the demons or spirits or whatever they were making them sick or so tired from being awake all night because of the noises or silhouettes they would be seeing. So DCS would temporarily take Latoya's daughter and oldest son to St. Joseph's Carmelite home in East Chicago, which the youngest son was sent to Christian Haven in Wheatfield, which was where he was to undergo psychiatric evaluation. The clinical psychologist who evaluated him was Stacy Wright. She noted in her findings that the youngest son would really only act possessed by a demon when he was being asked questions he didn't want to answer or was being challenged in some way. She also said that otherwise he seemed totally logical and coherent, until the subject of demons came up. When that topic came up, his stories changed a lot and they made no sense. They were described as being, quote, bizarre, fragmented, and illogical, end quote. At the end of the evaluation, Stacy Wright did not believe that he was suffering from any kind of psychotic disorder. She said in her psych evaluation notes that, quote, this appears to be an unfortunate and sad case of a child who has been induced into a delusional system perpetuated by his mother and potentially reinforced by other relatives, end quote. Apparently, while the older daughter and son were at St. Joseph's, they were also being evaluated by Joel Schwartz, and he came to the same conclusion about what it appears to be. He also said, quote, there also appears to be a need to assess the extent to which Ammons' daughter, who would be the 12-year-old, may have been unduly influenced by her mother's concerns that the family was exposed to paranormal experiences, end quote. After all was said and done, DCS instructed the children not to discuss demons, being possessed, and to take responsibility for their actions. They were also told to go to therapy so that they could address their past behaviors. Latoya was told that she had to stop using religion and demon possession as ways to discipline her children, and told her other appropriate ways she could discipline them, like taking away privileges and things like that. On May 10th, 2012, Latoya, Rosa, Austin, and the same 2 other police officers all came back to Latoya's home. They were still checking in on her while she was correcting her behavior from the DCS recommendations. Also joining in was Reverend Megano, 2 more Lake County officers who had a police dog with them, and a DCS family case manager. Not Valerie this time, though. It was Samantha Illick. Samantha told the Indy Star that she volunteered to go in Valerie's place because Valerie refused to go back to that house. The officer who had the dog decided to take him all around the home, but the dog didn't react at all to anything in particular. So then they all went into the basement. The Reverend wanted to check beneath the dirt under the stairs as it could contain demonic runes or perhaps a dead body, all of which would explain the activity happening in the house. They dug a hole that was about 4 feet by 3 feet. I'm not sure how far down it was. And they found a few odd items like press-on nails. They found a pair of panties, stuff like that. But they didn't find anything else as they continued to dig. They decided to replace the dirt and be done with that. The Reverend then took some salt, blessed it, and sprinkled it around the entire basement. Samantha had to leave the house, though, because she started getting super dizzy, lightheaded, and thought that her pinky finger felt broken all of a sudden. Latoya was not long coming out after her because she too was developing symptoms that included a headache and shoulder pain. According to police records, 2 officers were in a bedroom and noticed a weird oily substance that was dripping from one of the blinds. They cleaned it off, sealed the room for 25 minutes, came back, and the oily substance had reappeared.
Didn't they friggin' put oil all over the windows?
They did, but this was not the same oil. This was not the same. I think I took it out, but there was another section in there where Samantha was downstairs in the basement and she had found some sticky but slippery oil like substance coming from, like it was dripping from the ceiling, but it wouldn't have been anywhere that they would have put the cross or anything because that was on doors and windows. But this one in particular, they wiped it off. They actually took paper towel and they cleaned it off. And then they sealed that room for 25 minutes. And when they came back, the oily substance came back and they couldn't find the source anywhere. This was actually written in the police report. The Reverend said that oil is known to be produced on manifestation of a demonic or paranormal presence. So he wrote in his report and tried to find a priest to help with a minor exorcism of Latoya Ammons. He got what he needed and that same day did the minor exorcism on Latoya. In the house during this ritual were 2 police officers and Samantha Illick. Samantha would say that during the 2-hour ritual, she would get the chills but didn't know if that was demonic or not. She said, quote, "We felt like someone was in the room with you, someone breathing down your neck," end quote. Latoya would say that she definitely felt as if something that was inside of her was not letting her go and was trying to inflict as much pain as possible on her. She even compared it to labor pains. She said, quote, "I was hurting all over from the inside out. I'm trying to do my best and be strong," end quote. Latoya would need to go through 3 more exorcisms before she finally had no more activity or nightmares. This was in June 2012. So Latoya and her mother then moved to Indianapolis and they no longer have any fear. That house was still considered to be very haunted, I guess you would say, very possessed. Happily, Latoya was able to gain back the custody of her 3 children in November 2012. She continued to have regular checkups from DCS, but all went well and their case was closed in February 2013. A couple of fun facts after the fact. The house was bought by Zach Baggins, who is the host of Ghost Adventures, in February 2014. He paid $35,000 for it. And in February 2016, Zach Baggins had the house torn down. He did this after creating a documentary for his show that was called Demon House, which he calls his most traumatic case ever.
I watched it. It was bullshit.
Did you? I thought it was so good.
It was so fake.
Oh, no. I really like his show, but I do think he is
Oh my
over
God,
the top.
he's so fake.
He's very dramatic.
He's so fake.
I still like his shows. I think he's good. Anyway, that's the story of Latoya Ammons, which is pretty wild, I have to say, with however many people are involved in that. I don't know. It seems over the top for sure, but at the same time, there's a lot of documentation on it from official sources, which is why I'm just like, I don't know what to say. What do you think?
I don't think it was really haunted.
No?
I believe in hauntings and I believe in ghosts. I don't think this one was one.
No, you don't?
No. I mean, they didn't have the kids exorcised, did they?
No, they only had...
the kids would still be possessed.
The kids were with DCS, so they couldn't have done that anyway. She didn't get the kids back until November 2012.
Right, so the kids would have still been possessed.
Fair.
I think it was the mom. I think it was probably a creepy house, creepy old house, and she got in her head. You know when you get in your head like, oh no, there's something going on here, and then you convince yourself, and then I do think that she influenced the kids and convinced them.
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, that side of the story was also very convincing, and what they were talking about with DCS and how they were trying to, you know, find any reasonable thing that it could possibly be, because it obviously wasn't possession, and I don't think that would ever be something that they could write in their reports. Anyway, but I mean, it could be, who knows? You could be right. It could be, who knows? Absolutely. I do believe in hauntings too. I mean, I did live in a haunted house, so I think I've told that story before on here.
Yeah.
So I can't help but believe that part of it could be true. I don't know if it was to the degree that it was, but I don't know. It's pretty wild. So I guess who knows?
I feel like obviously people probably lived in it before them too.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't a brand new house.
Yeah, you're right. And there is a quote from the landlord who actually said this was the first time he had heard anything like that about this house. Nothing happened before or after they were in it, apparently. So
yeah. And if there's over 200 demons, like they said,
I
I don't think they would just happen to appear when they moved in.
And then Zach Baggins bought it, and then lo and behold, it's haunted again. So I would love to.
We know that Zach Baggins is always full of shit. So.
Yeah, he's very dramatic. I do give him that.
He's fake.
I loved that show, though. It was just one of my guilty pleasures, right? It's one of those
That's
shows
fine.
I didn't have to think about. And I love Paranormal Anything, and I could never find a good show that really like dove into that kind of stuff. So I was just watching whatever came on TV, which I don't have cable anymore, so I don't watch any of it, but looking for recommendations. If anybody has any, let me know.
Of paranormal TV?
Mm-hmm.
Or just TV?
No, paranormal TV. I love anything to do with like true stories of any paranormal activity, so whatever you can find, just send it my way.
There was a show that I watched, I don't think it's new, and William Shatner was the host. I can't remember what it was called. It was called like Obscure something or something like that. And there was cool episodes about, it was like not just paranormal. Like I remember they did an episode on cryptids. Oh. And then I think there was an episode on that death forest and stuff like that where a lot of people go to die.
It sounds familiar what you're saying, but I don't know the name.
Every episode was different stuff, and they would cover something kind of like weird and obscure and odd and like, or maybe it was called like unbelievable or something. I don't know. I feel like it was one word. Oh. And it was William Shatner.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about now. And there was another one by Jonathan Frakes. It was more like, I think he did one that was fact or fiction maybe or something like that. And he touched on stuff like that as well. But I can't remember the name of it. But I think I know what you're talking about, the William Shatner one. And I may have seen a couple episodes of it, but I actually can't remember now off the top of my head.
The Unexplained.
The Unexplained. Okay.
Yes, it is called The Unexplained, and it's all unexplainable things. UNXPLAINED. Yes. Okay. That's interesting. That name doesn't sound familiar to me at all, but I do know what you're talking about because I'm sure I've seen... I don't know if I saw any episodes, but... It's pretty good. I mean, I like William Shatner's voice.
I wonder how I can watch it. Yeah, William Shatner.
Don't ask me because it certainly wasn't legal. You should also watch... Remember I told you to watch the Dark Tourist show?
Yeah. Yes, you did. Yeah. That's still on my list. I haven't watched it yet.
That one's really good.
Yeah. Is it sort of like that?
No, that one is a guy... That one's the one with the New Zealand guy who's like the most precious thing in the world.
Yeah.
And he goes to all these dark tourism things. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, some of them aren't paranormal. He goes to Dallas about how they do like tours of JFK's shooting and stuff.
Right.
But then he also goes to a place where they do exorcisms and he sits in on exorcisms. And he also goes to the death forest and stuff like that. Yes. And it's very, very well done.
Okay, yes, you did tell me about this and I just forgot. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out because especially now with it being spooky season, I'm going to be wanting to watch anything and everything spooky that I can. So that's right up my alley.
Yeah, I tried to watch something spooky the other night before bed and my husband was like, no, we cannot. Not until October 1st.
What? Really?
Yeah, I was scrolling through the Halloween section.
Did you check out Midnight Mass yet?
No, I don't think I can watch that at night.
No, probably not. That's probably... Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm a couple episodes in and it's not... So far, it's not scary, but I can see how it can build up. I guess these shows are kind of like a build up to scary. Because they have to do a lot of backstory. They have to do a lot of character build up and stuff like that. So, like, I can see how it might be going forward. I haven't finished it yet, so no spoilers.
I have intentions of watching it. I just need some free daytime.
Yes.
So probably in, like, December,
I'll be able to watch it. Exactly.
Because that's what my schedule looks like.
Oh, my gosh. You just pile things on, don't you?
Yeah, I've already decided on my New Year's resolution for 2022, and it's... starting to say no to taking on new things, new projects. I need to learn to say no.
Instead of yes man, you're no man.
Yes, that is no. See, I have to start saying no.
You're not
when
good at
people
it.
ask me to be involved with things, I need to
right.
say, no, I am so overscheduled that sometimes I don't have time to eat or shower during the day. I cannot take on that new project. And then they'll probably be like, but this, and I'll be like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, here's your reminder that we're not rolling because it's spooky season.
That's right.
So, well, actually, after this episode, we have an extra special treat for the next episode, which we're not going to tell you about. It's a surprise.
That's right.
Yes.
It will be announced when we're ready to announce it.
AKA when it comes out.
That's right.
Maybe before.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll release spoilers before. But that is happening for your next episode. So you have that thing that you don't know to look forward to. It's great. You're going to love it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to check us out on social media, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. We are the Grimdark Diaries. We are just Grimdark Diaries on Twitter. If you want to hit us up, you can reach us at thegrimdarkdiaries@gmail.com. If you can like and review and subscribe and do all those awesome things that all the podcast apps do, that is always much appreciated. And make sure you come back next week for the next installment of Spooky Season. And remember, a friend in the dark beats alone in the light.